Jai Radha Kunj Bihari Jai Radha Kunj Bihari
Jai Radha Kunj Bihari
Gopi Janna Vallabha Girvaradhari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari
Gopi Janna Vallabha Girvaradhari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girvaradhari Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana
Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana
Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana
Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana
Yamunatira Vanachari
Yamunatira Vanachari
Yamunatira Vanachari
Yamunatira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Gopi Janavallabha Girvaradhari
Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari
Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana
Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana
Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana
Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana
Yamunatira Vanachari
Yamunatira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Jai Om Vishnavar Paramahamsa Virajikacharya Suttara Sutta Srimad His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki
Jai.
Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki
Jai.
Prem se Gau Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki
Jai.
Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kundi Giri Govardhan ki
Jai.
Vrindavan Dham ki
Jai.
Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki
Jai.
Ganga Mai ki
Jai.
Yamuna Mai ki
Jai.
Bhakti Devi Tulsi
Jai.
Devi Harinam Sankirtan ki
Jai.
Brihat Smrita Ki. All
Jai.
glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru Shri Gauranga. Swami Ramadi Namazi Saraswati Devi Gwarwani Jari Shesha Sunyabadi Pascha Jebi Shatari. Thank you very much. Kadambakanana, Prabhu, do you have anything you want to say before we get started?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Dear devotees, Hare Krishna, very good morning, all of you. Thank you so much for being here. We are very fortunate to have with us His Holiness Bhaktimarga Swami Maharaj and all of us. Thank you, Maharaj. And as we all know, Maharaj has been practicing for almost 50 years now. And Maharaj was the student of fine arts. Maharaj is very well known with the name as the Walking Monk. And Maharaj has appeared in many newspaper articles, interviews, and radios, televisions. And Maharaj is wonderful speaker and amazing Kirtaniya. And Maharaj's plays, the dramas are very popular all over the world. In fact, Maharaj has his website and Maharaj's YouTube page as well, where we can see his plays. So thank you so much, Maharaj, for being here. We would love to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So today we're looking at the Yoga of the Supreme Person, chapter 15, and it's text number 5. So I'll go through the Sanskrit. Niramana moha chitasanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama dvandvaira vimukta sukha dukkha sanjayera gajantya mudha padam avyayam tat. Translation: those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom. Good. And purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada.
Jai.
Jai.
The surrendering process is described here very nicely. The first qualification is that one should not be deluded by pride, because the conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself the Lord of material nature. It is very difficult for him to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know by the cultivation of real knowledge that he is not Lord of material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Lord. When one is free from delusion caused by pride, he can begin the process of surrender. For one who is always expecting some honor in this material world, it is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person. Pride is due to illusion, for although one comes here, stays for a brief time, and then goes away, he has the foolish notion that he is the Lord of the world. He thus makes all things complicated, and he is always in trouble. The whole world moves under this impression. People are considering the land, this earth, to belong to human society, and they have divided the land under the false impression that they are the proprietors. One has to get out of this false notion that human society is the proprietor of the world. When one is freed from such a false notion, he becomes free from all the false associations caused by familial, social, and national affections. These faulty associations bind one to this material world. After this stage, one has to develop spiritual knowledge. One has to cultivate knowledge of what is actually his own and what is actually not his own. And when one has an understanding of things as they are, he becomes free from all dual conceptions such as happiness and distress, pleasure and pain. He becomes full in knowledge. Then it is possible for him to surrender to the Supreme personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitan Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisance unto him. Hare Krishna. Jai, so we've got a few people on board here. We're just going to put in a humble request that you can show us who you are. It would be so nice. Okay. But I can't force you. I can. Okay. So 15.5, here we have it. We're looking at the topic of what are the qualifications for one to become free. And so we have a marvelous list here on what it takes to get back to the spiritual world. And it starts off with nirmana. We have one girl that we initiated here. She's from New Brunswick, and she moved to the Brampton area. And we gave her the name Nirvana because she's a very humble soul. And the name seemed to fit, Nirmana. Okay. Mana sometimes refers to the mind. Here the translation is false prestige. In fact, Prabhupada chooses to use the word false a bit here in this purport especially, and at least twice in the verse. And the one word that also jumps out quite a bit, maybe you notice it, free. Okay, people are talking about freedom all the time. Truckers are coming in and says, we want freedom, freedom. And you know, in some sense, I get their point. The Canadians are a little bit concerned about communist gradual takeover of the country. That's a fact. And, you know, people wonder, where did the viruses come from? All those kind of things are in people's minds. Afghanistan is shaking hands with China. People have concerns. It's real. It's real, something that we have to think about our future generations. What's Canada, what's the US going to look like in a few years? We've lost a lot of our luster. We don't manufacture much anymore. We leave it to the Orient. And we've lost our soul to sense gratification. We feel that's important. A lot of people are on drugs, and now we have cannabis shops opening up all over the country. I don't think it's a good sign, to be honest with you. It just means that we have are surrendering to our sensual pursuits, and that's not really a good idea. Nunang pramata kurti vikarma. That's one verse, or how it starts in the Bhagavatam. And it says that when you are following vikarma, everybody knows what karma is, right? Generally, karma has negative connotations. And oftentimes when we say karma, in terms of how we understand the definition in the Gita, it means that your pursuit in life is less than moksha. In other words, karma usually refers to worship of the devatas, the demigods, and looking for physical and material benefits. And that, clearly, Krishna says, is for the less intelligent souls, less intelligent beings. But it's true. I mean, if you want to have your acquisitions along the lines of, I want to be rich, I want to make lots of money, I want to have a beautiful wife, she's got to be on par with Sita Devi, or the latest model that's coming out of Bollywood or something like that. You know, people have inside, they have these things. I'm going to have a great career. I'm going to have a big house in the suburbs. They call them monster out here. But all those kind of achievements. And then it becomes like a status symbol. And you send people, back home. This is our house. And these are our 4 cars in the driveway. And look, we're near a ravine, you know, all these things. And India's here too. You go, everything from India is here, you know, in Canada. So you got those kind of dreams, you know. Sometimes people talk about the American dream, but the Canadian dream is something slightly more. And, you know, we get free medical, you know. So all those things stack up to be, you know, like, let's say, some dreams that we want to come true, you know. And, but if you have that ambition or that drive, it's nice that you have a drive. Let's put it that way. It's nice that you have Rajas in you, and it's not tamas, you know. But I think of a creature that has tamas with a smiley face. Have you ever seen those sloths? You ever seen them? Sloths? Yeah. They move real slow, and they have a happy face on them. Yeah. And they sometimes try to cross the road. And the guy has to pull over and pick him up and put him so that he's across the road. Otherwise, he'll get crunched. You know, so tamagun means slow moving, lethargy, destructive, self-destructive, uncaring, unsympathetic, without empathy, that kind of thing. Rajas means you have drive. You want to go and you're a trucker, and you want to start, you know, these protests, truckers protest, you know. So people have some drive, and I can understand their position. But so when they talk about freedom, we want freedom. We don't want to be communists. So this is the underlying, you know, let's say mindset for some people. So there are people's conception of freedom. I want my choice of beer. I want my choice of women, or in the case of women, men. I want my choice of clothes. I want my brand name clothes. I want all the luxuries that the new world has to offer. You know, like we're here in North America right now, and the new world was a big deal for people from Europe 200, 300, 400 years ago. It was a big deal. You mean I can have land? We're talking about a lot of the people who had nothing, and they went through the big plague, and you know, then you have the the French Revolution, where the royal family was just taking advantage of everyone. Marie Antoinette, people were complaining, we don't have any bread, we can't eat bread. She said, well, why don't you just get some cakes then? That was her dopey remark, because that's all she knew, bakery and, you know, like some beautiful, you know, pastries of sugar laden with sugar. And that's all she could relate to, Louis XIV and Marie Antoinette. People got very upset with that couple and said, off with their heads. And that was the French Revolution. So, and because people in Europe were struggling, there was a caste system there. We talk about caste system in India and how it's been very oppressive. And it actually has been very oppressive there. Even to this day, some Brahmins, you meet smarter Brahmins, they're really arrogant. They have what's a false prestige, and for sure they're not going to get freedom. Okay, so, you know, getting back to the work. So people here in a new world thought, wow, we can have land, we can have freedom. And just like I'm here in Toronto, the first people that kind of landed here were, there's a lot of people from the army. They didn't have jobs in Europe, so now they have a job. They protect Fort York. And Fort York was then, it was Toronto. Toronto was what it is now. It was Fort York. And the Americans came and they burned it down. That's the little short history of it. And then the Britishers here went and attacked Washington as a retaliation. Part of the War of 1812 and all that kind of stuff. So Canada and the US were at war with one at one time. Okay, short history. Okay, if you have drive, you're in the mode of passion, great. But you have to transition, don't stay there. It's not good. If you want to exercise your mode of passion, build a house. It's necessary. Build a truck. It's necessary. And by the standards that we live now. If you want to have children, mode of passion is required, isn't it? It's a necessity on many levels. And we wouldn't enjoy the sort of mighty life that we have now if it wasn't for the mode of passion. But passion needs to be married to sattva, mode of goodness, where there's a sense of rationale, reason, wisdom, thoughtfulness. So this is what is required to get free, as the word is used. First of all, we have to start with being thoughtful towards ourselves, thoughtful towards others. That means to be kind, to be conscientious. And before you speak, before something comes out of your mouth, even if you're a little agitated with someone, you have to just say, process something before you speak, before you say something to someone. And, like sometimes traffic gets such that you get irritated. So if it's summertime, you roll down the window and you use 4-letter words and it doesn't start with R for Ram. And people are just, that's passion, right? That's passion. So in goodness, we take time. You learn how to chill. You learn how to, let's say, with maybe some processes of pranayama, breathing exercises and sitting postures, you learn how to calm down. It's very necessary. So if people get into those kind of habits, sattvic habits, then it is possible to approach freedom. Also, you have to look at what you eat. George Bernard Shaw once said, he was a famous writer. He wrote a lot of famous plays, and we actually have a theater named after him at Niagara-on-the-Lake. He was a vegetarian, by the way. And he said once, you are what you eat. So if you eat animals, dead or alive, you're an animal, right? So we are encouraged to eat things that are sattvic, once again. Go sattvic, be sattvic. I believe George Bernard Shaw also said something about using our stomachs as graveyards. He's very graphic. If you, talk to a writer, he'll say things very poetical and graphic. He won't leave anything behind. I also heard something about him. Once he was at an event and there was a beautiful movie star. And she said to him, "Oh, George, if we got married together, we could have children. And our children will have my looks and they'll have your brains." And so he made some kind of remark. He said, "Well, my dear," speaking like a real gentleman, karma is a very interesting thing. The way it could work out is that they could end up having my looks and your brains, or lack of. Anyways, he turned it around a little bit. I don't know if he was trying to insult her or be a little sarcastic, but there was a great man, a great thinker, and he was very conscientious. He just didn't like to see animals, be destroyed. The act of killing and eating and shipping animals slots you in the mode of ignorance. And in ignorance, it's very, very difficult to reach the position of freedom. Okay, what are the Sanskrit words for freedom? Okay, we say moksha, we say nirvana. Are there any other words out there? I think those are the two key ones. Okay, excuse me. To get moksha, we must surrender to the Supreme Personality of God, and you have to recognize God. Now, one of the biggest challenges today, and our children are facing this, is atheism. It's becoming very popular. And even our kids, from with Indian descent, they're starting to believe in it. Yeah, I don't believe in God. This is, what do you believe in? I guess I haven't done a survey, but I'm scared, almost scared to ask, to put it out there. It's shocking. When I was a kid growing up, everyone believed in God. Everybody. You're either Catholic or Protestant or Jewish, but you believed in God, a power, a source of all. Now it's, with the influence of science, everyone believes in science more than anything else. So they're sold on this idea. And many of our teachers have Marxist leanings and communist leanings. It's something really to be concerned about. So holding on to our culture is, of paramount importance. Keeping our culture together and our principal values together and sharing that with our children. One thing that I would say too, going back to the point of being thoughtful, is that a lot of our kids are sold out on science. And they also find that our culture is a little bit weird. If you go to oftentimes standard temples, Hindu temples, they're not always very clean. Everything's kind of disorganized often. Or if it is organized, if there's some level of orderliness, our kids don't always understand what they're doing. It's highly ritualistic. And it's irrelevant, becomes unrelatable. So I think the task for us is to make it relevant to our younger crowd and present in such a way that it does have a scientific twist to it. Why not? Prabhupada used to always say that this is a science, the science of Bhakti Yoga. It's a science. You apply it and you follow certain principles, procedures, and you have the apparatus of procedures, and finally you come up with the conclusion that in the end, after applying your Krishna consciousness cultivation procedures, then you will become a more peaceful man or woman. You will become more at peace with yourself. So it will come, and freedom will come. That's the real freedom. Freedom is not which beer I can drink or which alcohol. Like where our temple is, they probably have the most prestigious, let's say, liquor store in the country. It's just 2 blocks away. And it was once a train station. And when they built train stations, they built them with class. They have character. So this one is converted into a liquor store. And it's always busy. People are always there, drinking. Okay, so I don't want to criticize anybody on this board if you're, if you're drinking, but I'm just saying, let's, if that is the case, cut down, downsize, and all the things that hurt us. If we want freedom, then we have to exercise discipline. We have to resisting. We have to, get out of our comfort zone, be comfortable with being out of our comfort zone, and be willing to just take up some austerity. I know one person personally who has had a hard time, and he recently came from India, has had a hard time with the weather here. And from the very get-go, I told him, warm up to the cold and the cold will warm up to you. You're just hung up psychologically, my dear friend. It's true, like, we have to be very adjustable, right? It's necessary that we adjust. And a lot of the adjustment, like when I'm talking about discipline, it's not such a big deal. It means rising early, it means taking a shower, it means fasting on some days, half-day fasts, sometimes full-day fasts. Not a big deal. There's hardly any. We have the best food, best music, best imagery to look at. Everything's good, the best smells. So, when people hear about that, we perform austerities. It's almost a joke. It's almost a joke. Um, and for some people, they cannot fathom the fact that if you want to advance in life, you cut down on this meat eating. I was on a plane once, I think it was Air Canada, some years ago, and I was a little disappointed with the airlines. And I asked the lady, he said, well, I'm a little bit hungry. Do you have anything that's vegetarian? And I said it a little bit loud. I'm looking for something vegetarian because I am a vegetarian and I don't want to eat dead animal body parts. I kind of put it like that to her. And she kind of, I put her a little bit on the spot and she started to stutter a little bit. I felt sorry for her. I don't like to see anybody inconvenienced. But she said, yes. Well, we tried the sandwich, but we found that the tomatoes were making the bread very soggy. So, and I rubbed it a little bit. I said, but I can't eat animal dead parts. You can see people are sort of listening, slightly turning around, looking. I was trying to make a point that you're eating dead animals, but they don't see it like that. They don't see it like pork chops or whatever it is, or ham or bacon, whatever they're eating out there. And, they don't see it like that. It's just a steak. The steak is it. In fact, when they advertise their food, whether it's chicken or steak or something, it's always a happy chicken. And it's the image of a happy cow. But that's not the truth. They're deceitful, right? So anyways, if we want moksha, we want nirvana, we want all those good things, then you have to approach the Brahma Bhuta stage. Brahma Bhuta. Brahma Bhuta means the spiritual level, where there's no hankering and no lamentation. Nashochati, nakamchati. We have to get there, get to the point of not hankering so much and not lamenting. Most of us are caught up in one of those two. Like when you're very materialistic, it's one of those two. It's like if you're like on a, let's say, football or everybody like, soccer. If you had two teams, right? One is hankering and the other one's lamenting. And so you're the ball, and the ball is in the hands of the lamenting team or the hankering team. And so you're just being kicked around. Well, that's what we are. And somehow or other, we need to come to terms with what we should be. It's not what we are, but what should we be? Or where it's not where we are now, but where should we be, right? So if there's a lot of tamagun in our life, then we try to make it sattvic ultimately. And it's hard to jump over passion. You have to kind of like run through it, live with it for a little bit. Yeah. But so the point is, let's look at the list that we got here. False prestige. It just means to be proud. And pride is one of the elements that we find in the next chapter, which has a demonic trait to it. Don't be falsely proud. To be under illusion. Illusion in Sanskrit is maya, that which is not. Taking the body to be the self. False association or bad association. This is where when you're a teenager, parents get a little worried about, I hope my, Pinky or my Ravi will not be in the wrong crowd, because they might start to drink or start to take drugs or find some, person to sleep with every different, So, I mean, be in good company, this is a very key thing for helping us. So, and also being always connected with the eternal through devotional service, done with material lust. Lust, anger, greed, these are the three gateways to hell, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. But if you can dovetail those lust and anger and greed then that's also fine. I think we talked about that with this group before. How do you channel lust? Well, Krishna says, some pundits have said, turn lust into love for the Lord. How do you turn greed? How do you transform that? Greed means to be eager for gaining the Lord's favor. What do you do about anger? Well, anger sometimes flares up. Be angry with, let's be angry with the Mayavad philosophy. Let's be angry with impersonalism. Let's be angry with abuse on the animals, abuse on people. We see somebody's being abused. So domestic violence happening in your neighborhood just next door to you. You're hearing yelling and screaming, and I remember I was in Calgary once, and I was just on a japa walk, and I heard this. The people had their window open, and it was near our temple. Just heard yelling and screaming between a man and a woman. It was so unnerving to hear that, and what if things start throwing, people start throwing things at each other, and that becomes very unpleasant. And that's not the kind of anger we want. But if you're angry towards those angry people, then that's suitable anger, or the anger that Hanuman has towards Ravana, or what Krishna has towards Arjuna in the first chapter. But you're a Kshatriya, aren't you? Come on, get your act together. Yeah? Or like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got angry because Madai and Jagai were physically attacking Nitai. So those are some examples of suitable anger. And then ultimately we want to be free from the dualities of happiness and distress. Mattara sparshastagotya, Shitoshna Sukadukada, Agamapahana Nityas, Tungstatikshasvabarata from chapter 2 of the Gita. We are hearing that it's necessary to appreciate this world. We can learn, the weather is like a guru to us because we learn to tolerate the extremities of it. So that's a good point. Learn to be indifferent. Learn to be indifferent. When I was walking across Canada, I was getting different reactions from people, okay? And like some of the reactions were, and it was very rare, people were sort of abusive. They just shout something out the window, hey you, blah, 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 I remember when I was walking near Windsor on my first walk, someone rolled down the window and said, hey man, the 60s are over. They just thought Hare Krishnas were a fixture in the 60s and that we're like old, we shouldn't be around anymore. Well, that was pretty harmless, to be honest with you. But then I had people who were, let's say, they responded favorably. They come out, I heard what you're doing. I think it's just wonderful. You're a monk, you're Buddhist, aren't you? You're Buddhist, aren't you? I said, no. This is, well, I had one guy say, isn't this Hari Lama or Dalai Rama, something like that. they got us confused. And then there's one lady, she told me, this is in Thunder Bay. She said, oh, I saw you yesterday. Now you're in my shop. Oh my God, I saw you yesterday and you're a real head turner. It's because you don't see monks walking in the wilderness very much, alongside of the roadside. You're real head turner. So she was kind of delighted that we came to her shop. But a lot of people are kind of indifferent. They're just like, they drive and did I just see what I saw? Yeah. There's not an attitude, an opinion necessarily. They're just indifferent. So indifference is important to cultivate in our spiritual life, and to not be so concerned about happiness, distress, fame, infamy, heat, cold. It is what it is. Let it be. Let it be. Let us not be bewildered, bewitched bothered, or bewildered. There's three B's: bewitched, bothered, or bewildered. You know? We don't need them in our life. Okay. No, so this is how surrender comes about and freedom comes about, by tackling these negative elements. And you can make your list up, you can write it, handwrite it. When you handwrite something, it has a lot more power and meaning behind it. Just say it, it's more, becomes a little more transfixed in the brain. And this is what we need to work on: our false prestige, our illusion, our bad association, material lust, and dualities, being too affected by dualities, and not being bewildered. These are the things that we have to work at in order to come to the stage of being really free. Okay, so now, when you talk to some old timers in India, like in Kolkata or something like that, and maybe they're in their 80s now or something like that, they'll say, yes, we fought for freedom. You know, we had the partition came, we got our freedom, the British went out, but it was better when the British were here. There was more orderliness, it was clean and all that. That's the way some of them talk about. So Swaraj doesn't have meaning. People were thinking, let's get free from the British rule. But some people will say, well, when there was parliamentary rule, there was more orderliness. Now, no offense, but India is oftentimes like a land of lawlessness. You can do anything, get away with anything. And when people have asked, somebody asked me the other day, in India, do they drive on the left or to the right? And my answer was, they drive everywhere, all over the place. So one thing is about India. India's got so many sattvic elements about it. It has the wisdom. It has the peacefulness. People are calm despite the madness. There's something special about India. I like going to India, not because of just that there's temples there, but I like the people. I'm nuts about the people, because in the midst of chaos, they're calm. But why don't we do something about the calm? You know, like say, here in Canada, it's fairly calm and it's fairly orderly, very clean, but people are very agitated in their minds. So there's no peace. Funny, isn't it? Funny. So we have to tackle these things that are outlined here by Lord Krishna, and starting with nirmana. Don't listen to the mind. Don't listen. The mind is your best friend or your worst enemy. And when you have it under control, some control, it's your friend, it's your buddy. But if you are under his control, it's your enemy. It's as simple as that. So we know how to deal with the mind as much as we deal with Maya, right? And the mind is compared sometimes to the wind. There were big gusts of wind coming through here. I've shown you my window before, right? This is where Prabhupada stayed. It's a big window with a big arch. And there was a bit of a stormy dynamic there for a bit. And what Arjuna has to say is that the mind is stormy. And it's like the wind. And you just have to, in fact, Arjuna said, you're asking me to control the mind, my dear Lord, but I think it's easier to control the wind than it is the mind. And Krishna says, yep, you're right. You're right. But if you are very, let's say, diligent, determined, and fixed on your services, and you do everything in the spirit of detachment, then you will be successful. You will get freedom, right? Don't be attached to the result, but be attached to the service. Be attached to the action, not what comes out of it. Yeah, that's right. So then those are some of the points we want to cover on this particular shloka. And so it's powerful, it's very effective. And so freedom, let's understand what it is. Real freedom is having control over your senses. That's what it means. It starts there. And if you're feeling guilty about some bad habits you have, just pray to Krishna to give you some strength and exercise some discipline. Yes. Strength comes from discipline. Hare Krishna. So anyone have any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All
Oh,
glories to
please,
Srila
I'm
Prabhupada, all
willing to
glories to you.
accept mine, okay?
What is that, Maharaj? Sorry.
I will accept your obeisance if you accept mine.
Maharaj, really grateful to you for giving such a broader understanding about how to be Krishna conscious and at the same time seeing everything as a part and parcel of Krishna, and also help others to actually come to that platform. I had one question, Maharaj. It's partially related to the today's topic which you shared. When I think about kids, they definitely, we see them being Krishna conscious. They try to attend temple festivals. They try to be in Sunday fest, like Sunday feast and all. They try to hear Krishna Katha. They try to be an association of devotees. But what I see is their faith in scriptures isn't that strong. For an example, if we take from Srimad Bhagavatam about creation, now it happened over time that we understand that stuff, that something is beyond us because we have limited capacity and we have tendency to commit mistakes. However, what I see for kids, when they see Harry Potter, which is completely not true, and then still represents some sci-fi stuff, they accept that fact and they are ready to read the books which are prevalent on those principles, versus when they read Srimad Bhagavatam talking about, oh, this is Lord Vishnu did like that. This is how the creation happened, and Brahma was born from the lotus flower, which came from the navel of Lord Vishnu. The question I have is, how do we break the faith on this material aspect and bring that to the Krishna conscious aspect?
Well, that's a very good question. And if the funds are there, you can make a whole series of movies on the level of quality of Harry Potter and, give attention to Hare Krishna. What I'm saying is that, fight fire with fire, fight, on the opposing, they're using the swords. Okay, then we will use swords, They're using javelins. We will use javelins too. We'll counteract them. So the way of counterattacking is by using the same kind of techniques, same kind of technology, but putting a spiritual spin to it. And I'm hoping that some of our boys and girls will get to that point someday where they can produce a real nice, Mahabharata that the whole world can sit their eyes on. But you're true what they say, these fictitious characters are like gods to children. But they have an esoteric side to them, right? There's a mystical side to them, which does encourage children to believe that there's something more than meets the eye. So our children are saying, oh yeah, there is something beyond just what's, trees and plants and, there's something beyond science. That's what it leads them to believe, and that's so that from that angle, it's good. We just need somebody to come along, like one of your boys, to become a big movie director who will rival Spielberg or somebody like that, or James Cameron, and just put these productions out and I think it might come. It might happen. So people will start believing, oh, this is Krishna, this is Ram, and they are superheroes. I think that's what's going to make a big difference. Yeah. And I think that our explanation has to be also realistic. And Sunday school is really important to have in your city. That's really important to implement. Line up your teachers now once, the pandemic is over. Line up their teachers and start your Sunday school program, unless if you're already doing it. We have the curriculum, but there's a way to save our children from getting into the pitfall of big time Maya. So let us, Prabhupada in his last days, he was saying, I just want to destroy atheism and agnosticism. His mood was, let's put God in his place. Let's recognize him. So that's the way I would answer it. Just, I would say, teach, educate the kids as best as you can when they're young. And they all start to believe in Krishna. It's not a problem. When they get to their teens, it's going to take a little bit of a different twist. To keep your teens in place, we've seen that kirtan is attractive to them, and each other. They are attracted to each other. So young people attract young people. Don't expect, old guys like me to be the one. Maybe the saffron helps a little bit, but don't expect that you will attract a lot of young people when you're in your 70s or 80s or something like that. It's got to be young people, trailblazing types that usually attract young people to Krishna consciousness. For the smart ones are the ones that are, really doing well. So I think we have to identify the right people to do the right things, so that there will be a positive outcome in the end. Okay. And by the way, if the millions and billions or trillions are there, then we have to make a Mahabharata that'll just, cause everyone to want to surrender. That would be so nice, right?
Absolutely.
That's my answer.
Thank you so much. Really grateful to you, Maharaj. It's wonderful to see you.
Good to see you too. And I still don't see Om, and I don't see Niranjan, and I don't see Pushas Jai Meel. I don't see those devotees yet. Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Anything that comes to mind?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Maharaj, thank you so much. I really liked, we are like the soccer ball and there are two teams, the lamb and hankering. That was a very nice analogy, Maharaj. Actually, that's how it is. We are just being thrown out this side and that side.
Yeah, we're being kicked around.
Yes, Maharaj.
I have another question here or comment by someone who's in the room with me, and his name is Vallabhari. You want to come and show your? You want to come and show yourself?
Hi Krishna.
Haribol. So nice to see you, Prabhu.
Same here, absolutely same. So Maharaj, my question is that at the end of the discussion, you said that we should pray to Krishna, and if we have the strength would come from the discipline. These are the two things that one can follow for giving up the bad habits and things. So how long? I mean, of course, one prays to Krishna, one also follows a discipline. But how sturdily one has to do this, and how long to really get rid of all the bad habits?
And so the question by Vallabhari is, how long is it going to take before we see some results from, and how long do we have to perform this tapasya and, follow the disciplines? Well, once you start and you get on a roll, it becomes second nature to you. You feel like discomfort by dropping it. So in terms of following good sadhana, that should be always there with us. And in the beginning, it might seem to be a little bit a shock to the system. But in the end, it will be something that, oh, this is natural. It's just regular fare.
Maharaj, just not the sadhana, like you mentioned about the
How long?
Sometimes you have that.
How long the bad habits?
The bad habits, because of the sanskars, because of our conditioning, sometimes they are so deep rooted, and they might be subtle. I'm not talking about gross bad habits, but some subtle bad habits might be there. They're so
bad habits die hard, right?
old habits.
Yeah, and old habits die hard. So what really makes a difference in how we change our lifestyle is in our company. It all rests in there. If you got somebody who's trying to help you to lose weight or something, they'll be like, hey, yeah, I don't think you really need that. And if you got like any of those kind of situations, if you're in good company and you ask the person specifically, hey, can you help me with trying to cut down on cigarettes, trying to get out of cigarette smoking. And, someone who's strong, I mean, Arjuna reached out to Krishna and said, I see you're strong, so I'm weak. Shishasti am shami mam twang prapanam. Please be my guru. I need you right now. I need strength. So it's in, the results will come in the company you keep, sadhu sangha. So associate with those good people. And that's one of the reasons why our Windsor devotees are getting together you get together once a week, isn't it?
Yes, Maharaj, once a week on Bhagavad Gita, but we do read Srimad Bhagavatam on weekdays, Maharaj, in the night.
So because of this constant connection with thoughtful people, you have a chance to transcend, get moksha. In fact, get love of God would even be better. It's the company you keep. You really go for the right people. And there's some opportunities where when you feel strong, you'll go out and meet people in the public, go door to door or on the street or whatever other device you want to use. We've got a great kirtan group. Come on, listen to the fantastic devotional Indian music. And some people will come, right? We have to sort of rack our brains to figure out how to get people to be, let's say, warm up to Krishna a bit more.
I want to ask the question, when is the Bhagavatam read or recited?
You had a question about the Bhagavatam? What was that?
What day and what time do you speak on that, discuss?
Well, the devotees there in Windsor have regular Bhagavatam discussions. It's not with me. I mean, we do them in the temple here in Toronto. But I think you want to ask Kadambakanana Prabhu when they do the Bhagavatam discussions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj. We do Bhagavatam on weekdays from Monday through Friday at 9 o'clock in the night. We read for about 20 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you. Wednesday, 9 o'clock.
No, Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I'll send you by email the information on what link you can join. We'll be very happy to have you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Well, thank you. Anything else? I'll be heading off to the RT shortly.
Maharaj, looks like these are the questions we had. Thank you so much, Maharaj. We're very, very grateful to have you.
It's always a pleasure to be with the Windsor devotees. I have a soft spot for Windsor.
It's our good fortune, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Hare Krishna.
और वो कॉफी कब मिलेगी?